Each night, when you close your eyes, a gateway opens, not one that leads to fleeting dreams, but to the very essence of yourself, the self you have forgotten. You are not merely sleeping. You are stepping into a realm where all limitations dissolve, where every belief quietly becomes a command, where your soul communes with the universe in a language beyond words. Sleep is not an ending. It is the beginning of creation, of healing, of remembering who you truly are. In this journey, you will not be taught anything new. You will simply be reminded of what you have always been, not through theory, but through a living experience where handwriting becomes a tool of programming, where the voice becomes a frequency of awakening, and where each night's rest becomes a sacred ritual to reprogram destiny. If you have ever felt that life holds something deeper that you have yet to touch, perhaps it does not exist in the waking world. It awaits you behind closed eyes. And now, together, we step through the forgotten gateway in sleep. Most people spend nearly 1/3 of their lives sleeping, yet they have no idea they are crossing a sacred gateway without ever pausing to become aware of it. They shut out the light, lay their weary bodies down, close their eyes, and sink into unconsciousness, carrying with them tension, complaints, fears, and unhealed memories. Each night they enter sleep like a tired beggar resting under life's eaves, hoping tomorrow will be better, without realizing they are stepping into the most fertile ground for replanting the entirety of their lives. The subconscious does not distinguish between day and night, nor between reality and imagination. It only receives what you repeat deeply and consistently, and in the very moment you release the control of the conscious mind, the subconscious opens like an untouched field, ready to receive any seed planted within it. The tragedy is that most of those seeds come from old habits, unresolved worries, outdated self-images, and silent limitations you do not realize you still cling to. Thus, sleep becomes a forgotten gateway. No one has taught you that sleep is not merely a biological act, but a spiritual ritual, a silent meeting between the sacred part of you and the infinite creative essence. When you approach sleep as a pilgrim stepping into a holy temple, everything begins to change. No bells are needed, no complex rituals, only a gentle awareness before surrendering yourself to the dark. A simple affirmation spoken with deep feeling, a line of sincere gratitude for 3 small things in your day, a clear mental image of who you are choosing to become, and then letting it all dissolve into the final breath before you sink into the depths. Sleep is not the end of a day, it is the beginning of a new reality. Each night, you are handed the brush and palette to paint tomorrow's picture. If you paint nothing, the subconscious will merely copy the old canvas, and then you wake, look at your life, and conclude that nothing has changed when in truth you changed nothing while the gateway was open. Imagine if each night you were allowed to step into a magical garden where every intention could take shape, where every limitation dissolved, where there was no voice of reason to resist, only pure receptivity. And if you knew that with a single clear thought and a heartfelt emotion you could plant the seed of prosperity, of healing, of a fulfilling relationship, you would never again enter sleep carelessly. You would prepare for sleep as an artist prepares for an invisible performance, where the audience is none other than the deepest part of yourself, ready to replay every word you spoke, every feeling you felt, every vision you imagined as if it were the only truth. And then the next day, the outer world would begin to reflect what you had inscribed during the night. An unexpected opportunity appears, a change in how others treat you, a calm that needs no reason, all arising from one thing: you entered sleep with intention, with faith, and with choice. No one granted you something new. You simply switched back on the power within. Sleep is no longer a forgotten land. but a place where the soul is restored, the mind renewed, and the heart reminded of its sacred nature. That gateway is always open. It waits for no one, chooses no one. It only asks that you approach with quiet gratitude, with a mind cleansed of haste, and with faith that you are not drifting into a meaningless dream, but writing the next chapter of your life. And when you understand this, you will no longer see sleep as an empty space. You will know that in that gentle darkness, true light is working without pause. No sound is needed. No effort is required. Only that you remember and step through that gateway as if you know the miracle is already waiting for you on the other side, awakening the ancient wisdom of the subconscious. Have you ever wondered why some people can simply close their eyes and recreate their lives, while others sleep their whole lives yet never escape the old cycle? It is not because they are more special, but because they have reconnected with an ancient wisdom, something not found in books, not belonging to classrooms, but living quietly in the very veins, the breath, and the deepest layers of awareness within each person. This wisdom is not new. You have simply forgotten it. Forgotten that there is a silent yet powerful mechanism always operating behind your every action and result, the subconscious. And the subconscious did not begin when you first heard the term. It has always been present, since before writing existed, since the time when humans lived by feeling, by intuition, by natural connection with the universe. The first people who looked up at the sky, placed their hands on their chests, and felt the presence of life understood that there was an invisible force recording every thought they had, every emotion they carried, every image they repeated in their minds. They did not call it the subconscious, but they lived in harmony with it. They did not analyze the mechanism, but they did not violate its laws. Over time, humanity advanced in knowledge but retreated in memory. We learned more languages, yet forgot the wordless voice between the mind and the universe. And so people began to live only half of their lives, leaving the other half to operate in the dark, with no understanding of it. The subconscious is not complicated, but it demands subtlety. It does not respond to logic, but to repetition, to emotionally charged imagery, to the things you permit to exist within you as truth. And that is why sleep becomes sacred ground, because in the moment the conscious mind releases its grip, all your energy turns inward, no longer scattered by the outside world. That is when every word you heard, every image you carried, every unresolved feeling falls into the subconscious like drops of water soaking into the soil. You do not need to do anything grand. You only need to know what you are planting. The question is, are you truly paying attention to what you plant before sleep? Or do you let yourself drift into slumber, carrying the scraps of the day, the unsolved worries, the critical voices that have been repeating in your mind for years? The ancient sages did not have modern technology, but they understood deeply that sleep is the doorway between the material world and the unseen. They knew that if you could touch that threshold state, you could whisper to the universe without a word. You could reshape your life through inner images clearer than any plan written on paper. And now, even though you live in a noisy and distracted world, you can still access that understanding. You do not need to become someone else. You do not need to learn something complicated. You only need to remember. You only need to be still long enough to hear again that old voice within you, the one buried under the dust of knowledge, yet never lost. Each night before sleep, you are not just turning off the lights, you are turning off the material world to open the world of energy. And if you know how to enter that moment with intention, with gratitude, with vivid emotional imagery, you will begin to see miracles unfold in your life. Not because you are forcing the subconscious to change, but because you are speaking to it in the language it understands best, images, emotions, repetition. If you are still reading this, pause for a moment and ask yourself this. At the end of the day, when everything quiets down, what are you planting into your subconscious? Are you unintentionally recording lack, disappointment, or are you choosing to carry gratitude, clarity, and a new image of yourself? Perhaps this is the very moment you need to renew your evening ritual. It does not need to be long, only true, only still. And you need only remember that the subconscious does not require your explanation. It only requires you to live in alignment with your inner truth. Thank you for being here, not merely to hear new information, but to remember what you have always known. You do not need to convince your subconscious to change. You only need to stop planting what is old and worn. Because once you begin to plant anew, the universe has no choice but to blossom according to what you have sown. The golden moment, the window for programming the mind, there is a moment that every sage, every enlightened being has quietly guarded as a sacred secret. It is not the bright hours of the day when you are working, nor is it during meditation amidst wind chimes and incense. This moment happens in stillness, in the fragile transition between waking and sleep, between reality and dreams, between the knowing of the conscious mind and the wordless depths of the subconscious. The ancients called it the sacred hour. Modern science calls it the theta state, when the brain slows down and receptivity suddenly heightens. Whatever you name it, it remains the most powerful time to reprogram your entire system of beliefs, emotions, and the way your life operates. In that state, the conscious mind lets go of control, and the subconscious, the part that holds all your memories, habits, and definitions of self, begins to open like a door, waiting to receive new information. No more resistance, no more justifications, no more barriers of analysis, only pure receptivity. Whatever you plant in that moment, a vivid image, a deeply felt statement, a clear intention, will be recorded by the subconscious as an unquestionable truth, needing no explanation. This is why those who understand this law never let that moment pass unconsciously. They do not fall asleep to the old voices in their heads. They do not allow the lingering echoes of a long day filled with worry, judgment, and fatigue to be the final signal recorded in the subconscious. They choose a different image. They choose a different emotion. They choose to plant what they truly want to live, not through effort, but through gentle and consistent intention. For the subconscious does not require you to shout. It only needs you to repeat each night before sleep. Your brain passes from alpha into theta. If you know how to use that moment well, you can imprint new instructions, new emotions, new life scenes into your mind. This is not abstract philosophy. It is a truth acknowledged by both ancient theology and modern neuroscience. Emotionally charged images are the language of the subconscious. When you envision yourself living in wholeness, health, abundance, and feel it as if it is happening now, you send a clear signal to the part of you that runs your life from beneath the surface. And if you persist in sending that signal at the right moment, you carve a new channel into your nervous system from which your choices, actions, and opportunities begin to shift. There was once a woman who had lived for years in exhaustion, feeling trapped in both her job and a relationship with no way out. Every night, she went to bed with a sigh and a sense of hopelessness. Then she was given an instruction that seemed almost too simple. Spend 3 minutes before sleep imagining a different version of herself. No need to force belief, just feel. She closed her eyes, breathed slowly, and envisioned waking up in a new space, in peace, in work, where she was valued, in the loving gaze of her ideal partner, she did not expect it to happen overnight. She simply repeated it as a ritual, no striving, no control. After a few weeks, her sleep began to change. She found herself dreaming of scenes identical to those she had imagined. She woke with a lightness she could not explain. Then, as if by a planned coincidence, an old friend called to invite her to try a new role. The old relationship dissolved without a fight. A sense of freedom began to bloom. No miracle happened in a single night, but her entire life began to turn. From where? From the moment she chose to plant anew, from 3 minutes of quiet in a noisy life, from stepping intentionally into the softest ground of the brain and whispering what she wished to live. Everyone has that moment. Every night. No special skill is needed. No absolute belief is required. Only the knowing of when the door is open and what you bring through it. She chose an image of wholeness to replace her sigh, and the subconscious, like fertile soil that does not distinguish, began to grow from there. So when you go to sleep tonight, remember, there is a door opening. It exists for only a few minutes. But if you know what you are planting at that time, you will not need to wake up and force change. Your life will have already begun to turn the moment you drifted into sleep. Not by action, but by programming. Not by willpower, but by being present at the right time. And that is the golden moment. Twilight programming, rewriting the mind in the borderlands. It is not when you are most alert, but when you are suspended between two worlds, when everything becomes hazy and the line between what is real and what is imagined nearly disappears, that the subconscious opens its doors wide, receiving every signal without censorship. This state does not last long, yet it is one of the most potent windows of time, and most people pass it by unnoticed. The ancients never gave it a name, yet they lived in harmony with it. They understood that in the moment you are no longer fully awake but not yet deeply asleep. You can commune with the most creative part of yourself. Today, we call it the twilight state, the borderland between wakefulness and slumber, where the brain shifts from alpha waves into theta. In this layer, the defenses of the rational mind grow thin. The voices of criticism, analysis, and doubt step back and hear anything you say, imagine, or feel will be etched deeply into the subconscious as a default directive. The problem is, most people slip through this state unconsciously. They drift toward sleep with a phone still in their hand, with an argument from earlier replaying in their mind, with their hearts still full of unspoken worries. And so, in the most fertile moment of all, they plant scattered seeds misaligned with what they truly desire. No one does this intentionally. They simply have never been told that in this haze they could remake themselves. Programming the subconscious is not a rigid process. It is like a soft whisper repeated again and again, like a subtle fragrance permeating the inner space. To truly reach the deepest layers of the subconscious, you do not need to shout or strain. You only need to know the right moment, the right frequency, the right state. In the twilight state, every word carries more weight. A gentle affirmation such as, I am loved, I am healing, I am guided, will fall into the central command of the mind, the place that determines your reactions, choices, and outcomes in waking life. When repeated at the right moment, those words cease to be mere language. They become silent commands. Running programs that replace the outdated definitions which have bound you for years. There was a man who once shared that he had tried everything to free himself from a constant undercurrent of anxiety. He read books, attended talks, meditated, yet the unease always returned by morning. It was only when he learned to use the moment before sleep that things began to shift. He did not try to erase anxiety. He simply began to quietly repeat, I am safe. I am protected. I can trust life, whenever he felt himself drifting into that hazy borderland. At first, he noticed no clear difference, but within 2 weeks, he was sleeping more deeply. He dreamt of standing in a field of light, feeling a strange, new trust he had never known before. And then, curiously, the situations that once triggered his anxiety began to unfold with ease. People who had brought him unease started to fade from his life naturally, not because he fought them off, but because he had shifted his inner frequency in the very moment the universe listens most clearly. No effort was required, only timing. What matters is consistency. You do not need to speak much. You only need to choose a few short sentences, charged with genuine feeling, and repeat them softly each night. Right? As you feel your body melting into sleep, it could be an image you love. It could be a feeling you wish to live. It could be the version of yourself you are choosing to become. Let it soak in, like morning dew into the soil, unhurried, unforced. Then let it rest. No need to hold on. Just know you have planted at the right moment. That is twilight programming, gentle yet profound. Simple, yet powerful. Not a technique, but a ritual. Not to control the subconscious, but to tell it that you are ready to become something greater than fear and memory. And once you live with reverence for that hazy moment, you will no longer find yourself repeating the same days over and over, because you will have begun rewriting from within, in the place where every story truly begins. From there, sleep is no longer the end, but the beginning of a new life, quietly taking shape in the stillness. Sarah's story. When sleep plants the seeds of prosperity. Sarah was not extraordinary. She had no privileged starting point, no wealthy family, no remarkable talent. She was simply an ordinary woman whose life revolved around her office job, family responsibilities, and the constant weight of financial worries. For many years, Sarah believed that prosperity was beyond her reach. She worked hard, saved every penny, but her efforts seemed only enough to keep her afloat, never bringing any sign of a breakthrough. Then, as if by a planned coincidence, Sarah overheard a brief conversation between two strangers on the subway. They spoke of the power of the subconscious, of using sleep as a means to reprogram the inner mind, of planting a new command within it, without the struggle of willpower. The moment passed quickly, but it left a lingering question in her mind. That night, instead of lying down with her usual stream of thoughts, Sarah sat by her bed for a few minutes and quietly whispered to herself a simple phrase, I am supported. I am stepping into the flow of prosperity. Asterisk. She had no certainty it would do anything, but something inside her softened, lightened. She pictured herself walking down a peaceful path where money was no longer a worry, but a natural current flowing to her at the right time, in the right way. Then she surrendered to sleep. The next morning, life appeared the same. No miracle arrived, but something within Sarah had shifted, a quiet softness, a thin yet clear thread of belief. And she continued. Each night, she repeated the ritual. No complication, no expectation, just planting. 3 weeks later, and her boss called her into the office to announce that the company was expanding a new project and wanted her to lead a portion of it. This meant a higher income and an opportunity to broaden her professional network. The surprise was not in the opportunity itself, but in how Sarah received it. Instead of worrying or doubting herself as before, she simply smiled and accepted it calmly. She knew this was not luck. It was the result of the seeds she had been silently planting at the precise moment when the mind is most receptive. As she began living as someone already prosperous, the subconscious had no reason to reject it. It started to reorganize her feelings, her actions, her reactions, aligning them with the new signal she sent each night. Not long after, Sarah was invited to a professional conference. There, she met a potential business partner who would later become her collaborator on a side project, one that brought her the first stream of passive income outside her main job. She did not force anything. Everything seemed to flow, as if an unseen hand was gently guiding her every step. Yet the true miracle was not in money or recognition. The greater transformation was within Sarah. She no longer carried the feeling of lack. She no longer repeated the exhausting questions. How will I make ends meet? How will I get out? Asterisk. Instead, she felt a peace she had never known before, a deep gratitude, a trust that needed no reason. And she kept her nightly ritual as a non-negotiable part of life, no matter how tiring or stressful the day had been. And she took a few minutes before sleep to return to the image of herself living in abundance, to whisper to her subconscious a gentle yet potent affirmation, and to let it dissolve into her final breath before drifting into deep rest. Sarah had never imagined that sleep could carry such regenerative power. She had once thought of it as a passive pause, but now she understood when the body stops, the subconscious begins to work, and when you guide it gently, without forcing, without doubting, that deepest part will adjust your entire reality in ways you cannot foresee. Sarah's story is not an exception. It is a reminder that anyone, from any circumstance, can begin again from a place that seems the most ordinary. You do not need to change your outer life first. You only need to change the message you send into that twilight space each night. The subconscious does not care who you are. It only responds to what you repeat. And if you are patient enough to plant the right seeds when the soil is most open, you will watch your whole life begin to sprout, not loudly, not hastily, but inevitably. Sarah did it. And if you are reading this, perhaps you are also standing before a similar door, a door that will open with nothing more than a quiet knock, not by force, but with a sleep that knows the right words to say. Gratitude, the frequency that begins every dream. Sarah once believed that people who lived in prosperity must possess something she did not. She thought they had been blessed with luck or born into places where every door was open. She, on the other hand, had grown up in an ordinary family, not in poverty, but never in abundance. Her childhood was steeped in the anxious conversations of her parents about bills, expenses, and saving. She learned to be cautious with every decision involving money. Over time, that sense of financial insecurity became her default state. Sarah stepped into adulthood with a gentle smile, but carried within her a mind constantly tense, fearful, and ruled by unconscious orders that she had to work twice as hard as anyone else just to get by. She did not live badly, but she never felt she had enough. Each payday followed the same cycle: pay the bills, a scrimp, and worry, even after studying more, working harder, and trying small investment opportunities. The results remained the same. One evening, after working late, Sarah happened to hear a podcast while washing dishes. The warm, steady voice coming from the small speaker spoke of an idea that made her stop in her tracks. Sleep is a gateway straight into the deepest part of your mind. If you know how to speak at the right moment, the subconscious will not distinguish between reality and imagination. It will simply listen, receive, and reprogram itself according to whatever you repeat. With enough feeling, Sarah froze. No one had ever taught her that she did not have to try harder. She just had to stop planting the wrong seeds. That night, for the first time in years, she did not let herself drift off with a sigh. She did not check her phone one last time. Instead, she sat up, placed her hand over her heart, closed her eyes, and whispered 3 simple sentences: I deserve to live in abundance. Money flows to me naturally and easily. I am supported by a wisdom greater than myself. Asterisk. She repeated them like a gentle lullaby, not forcing belief, just feeling. Then she slept. No miracle came the next morning, but something inside felt lighter, as if a knot within her had loosened. She kept the small ritual every night. Weeks later, an old friend texted to ask if she wanted to join a freelance project. She said yes, though part of her still doubted. This time, instead of letting fear lead, she chose to keep planting the image of herself being steady, running work she loved, being paid what she was worth. Each night before sleep, she imagined herself sitting in a warm workspace with golden light, with every bill fully paid. She felt the relief, the gratitude, the peace. That project not only brought her unexpected income, but also introduced her to a colleague who would later become her life partner, not because she had planned it, but because she had changed her inner frequency. She no longer broadcast fear, she began to broadcast readiness, and the subconscious, like a finely tuned mirror, reflected that shift back into her outer world. Her bedtime habit became a sacred ritual, no matter how tired she was. She gave herself those final minutes to return to the image of the self she had chosen to become. She no longer saw sleep as a pause. She knew that while her body rested, the deepest part of her was working tirelessly, resetting every psychological structure, reinstating the truth she had forgotten, that she had always been worthy, had always been enough, and had always been supported. Sarah did not become a millionaire overnight, but she stepped into a new life, one without lack, without rushing, without chasing. Everything arrived at the right time, in the right measure, with ease. She no longer clung. She simply remembered and chose to live, as if what she desired was already true. And from there, life began to respond in ways it never had before. If there is one thing Sarah would say to anyone struggling with worry and helplessness, it would be this: do not miss the final moment before you fall asleep, because in that moment, you are telling your subconscious who you are. And from that point, it will rewrite your entire life. Asterisk, not through effort, but through an image, a feeling, a quiet choice before you close your eyes. Sarah's story is not a myth. It is living proof that you do not need to change the whole world. You only need to start with your own sleep. Handwriting. When the pen becomes a programming device, there is a tool that almost everyone owns, yet few have ever considered as a powerful programming device for the subconscious. It does not light up. It does not require an internet connection. It has no battery or advanced software. It is the pen, the small, the simple object, seemingly meant only for jotting notes, signing documents, or scribbling bits of daily life. But in the world of those who understand the deeper language of the mind, the pen is a key that unlocks uncharted territory within oneself. Handwriting is not merely the act of transferring information onto paper. It is the process in which the body, mind, and emotions work in harmony to transform an invisible stream of thought into a tangible image. When you write by hand, you are engraving a command into your nervous system. Every word you write is an electrical signal sent through your brain, passing into your emotional network, traveling down your arm, and leaving its trace on the page. This means that if you write with full attention and genuine feeling, you are not simply recording words, you are reprogramming yourself. Unlike typing, which is easily distracted and often lacks emotional connection, handwriting forces you to pause, feel, and merge with your own stream of thought. It creates a quiet space where intention is amplified, and the subconscious begins to pay attention. This is why so many masters of the inner life around the world advise writing by hand what you want to become every day, especially before sleep. When you write a positive affirmation like "I am living in abundance" or "I am loved and supported," you are repeating a concrete image, and when you write it again and again, you are sketching a new map in your mind. You do not need to believe it instantly. Just write, because in writing, you bypass the analytical gate of the conscious mind and plant in the subconscious a seed, a piece of data, a directive. And here is the fascinating part. The subconscious does not distinguish between reality and imagination. It only accepts what is repeated most often with the clearest emotional charge. There was a man named David who had lived in a prolonged state of helplessness. He had been rejected many times in his career and always felt left behind. One day, he read the advice to try writing out what he wanted every day, as if it were already true. He did not believe it much, but thought it could do no harm. So he bought a small notebook, and each night before sleep, he wrote exactly one sentence: "I am respected. I contribute great value and am rewarded accordingly." Asterisk. At first, the sentence made him laugh. It felt far removed from his reality at the time. But he kept writing it every night. No rush to believe. No pressure, just writing as a small ritual. After 2 weeks, he noticed he was standing taller, speaking more slowly, and feeling less anxious in conversations. A month later, he received an interview invitation from a company that had once rejected him. This time, he walked in with a different energy. He was not trying to prove himself. He simply showed up as a man who had remembered his worth. And he was hired. David did not change the world. He changed one small habit before bed. He needed no one else to validate him. All he needed was a pen, a sheet of paper, and a clear enough intention. The steady repetition adjusted the way his subconscious saw him, and from there, everything around him began to shift accordingly. Handwriting makes your thoughts tangible. It draws your emotions into the present. It allows you to plant seeds with your own hand, like a devoted gardener, pressing each seed into the soil. And if you write in the half-awake, half-asleep state, when the window to the subconscious is wide open, the effect is even stronger. In that moment, you are not just writing, you are programming, not with theory, but with action. Think of what you want to redefine in yourself. It does not need to be long, just clear and true. Then choose a small notebook, keep it by your bed. Each night before turning off the light, write a few lines. Write as if you are recounting something that has already happened. Write as if you are reminding yourself of something that has always been within you but was once forgotten. Write as if each stroke of the pen is a silent prayer. Because when you write by hand with a heart fully awake, the pen in your hand is no longer just a tool for recording. It becomes a programming device. It opens a new path for the truth within you to be revealed. And night after night, word by word, stroke by stroke, you will find yourself stepping into another world. You will not need anyone's approval. You will not need an external miracle, because you are the miracle. And the pen is simply the key that allows you to return and fully live it. The sleep space, the invisible energy that shapes dreams, the place where you sleep is not merely where the body rests. It is a sacred realm, a meeting point between what the eyes can see and what the mind alone can sense. Many believe that a soft bed, gentle lighting, and quiet surroundings are all that's needed for good sleep. But sleep is not just a biological state. It is a gateway into the world of the subconscious, and the space around you, though silent, plays an essential role in shaping that experience. Every object in your bedroom carries its own frequency. Every item near your bed emits energy. You may not see it with your eyes, but the subconscious records everything with absolute honesty and depth. a cluttered room filled with unwashed clothes, piles of paperwork, and cold. Harsh lighting tells the subconscious that you are living in disorder, lack of control, and tension. In contrast, 8D, clean space, intentionally arranged with soft colors, subtle fragrances, or the warm glow of candlelight sends a signal of safety, peace, and openness. And it is in that state that you become truly ready to commune with your deepest self. The subconscious does not only listen to words, it absorbs the entire environment. The picture on the wall, the book on your nightstand, the scent lingering in the air, even the memory embedded in an old object, all of these shape the dreams you will have and the emotions you will carry into deep sleep. One woman shared that after decluttering her bedroom and changing its palette from cold grays to warm beige, her sleep changed entirely. No more tossing and turning, no more strange and unsettling dreams. Instead, she felt embraced, supported. Every morning she woke lighter, ready to meet the day without the familiar weight of fatigue. She had not changed her meditation practice nor added sleep supplements. She had only shifted the energy of her room, and that alone was enough to write a new chapter in her relationship with herself. The sleep space is a ritual in itself. It is a silent message you send to your subconscious before closing your eyes. If you enter a room where every detail speaks of release, gentleness, and self-respect, you will not need to try hard to relax. The space will hold you. That energy will carry you into sleep like a natural current. The wise do not wait for the mind to quiet before sleeping. They prepare the outer stillness so it seeps inward, filling the entire field of presence. They understand that everything around the bed speaks, and so they allow only what uplifts them to remain. Sometimes just one small change, placing a vase of fresh flowers by the bed, or removing uninspiring objects, can open an entirely new field of energy. You do not need to renovate the entire room. Just make it a place your soul longs to return to at the end of each day. Some keep a notebook by the bed as a reminder that every night is a chance to redefine the self. Others choose a signature, scent lavender, sandalwood, or sweet orange. So that body and subconscious link that fragrance with safety. These small habits are not mere preferences. They are signals. They are rituals. And rituals always carry the power of deep transformation. Sleep does not begin when you close your eyes. It begins with how you enter your space, with the attitude you hold toward yourself as the day ends, with the choice you make. Will this space tell your subconscious that you are letting go or holding tight, loving yourself or neglecting yourself? The ideal sleep space does not have to be perfect. It only needs to reflect who you wish to become. If you seek abundance, let the room breathe that essence. If you seek healing, let its colors and light speak that message. If you long for ease, let every corner remind you that you no longer need to rush. The subconscious listens more than you think, and it begins listening the moment you step into your bedroom. Each night is a ceremony, and your sleep space is the silent temple where it unfolds. Do not let it be overtaken by clutter, by objects that carry heavy energy, or by memories that no longer serve you. Purify it. Tend to it as if preparing to welcome your own soul home after a long day. For in the quiet of that room, dreams will be sown, and from those dreams, a new life will quietly blossom, not through force, but through a space calm enough to allow you to be fully yourself. Mirrors and gentle light, reframing the self-image. A mirror is a familiar object in the bedroom, yet few realize it reflects more than the outer form. It also reflects how you see yourself on the deepest level. The way you face a mirror each day, how you stand, how you look, What you think in that moment of meeting your own gaze are all impressions recorded and stored by the subconscious as part of your identity. If you look into the mirror with judgment, you are telling your subconscious that you are not enough. If you avoid meeting your own eyes, you are reinforcing the belief that you are unworthy of being seen. But if you approach the mirror as a sacred tool to remember your true essence, everything can begin to change from the inside out. Soft light does more than create relaxation. It softens the mind's reflexes. When the light in your bedroom is no longer harsh or visually overstimulating, but becomes gentle and warm, it helps the nervous system drop into a calmer frequency. This is the ideal condition to enter a state of deep receptivity. And when you pair that light with a clean, unobstructed mirror placed with care, not facing the bed, not directly opposite the door, you create a conscious doorway where you can reframe your self-image each night before sleep. A woman named Marianne had lived for years feeling insecure about her appearance. No matter how many compliments she received, she could not believe them. Each time she looked into the mirror, and she saw only what she disliked: uneven skin tone, faint shadows beneath her eyes, slightly sloping shoulders, lips she thought lacked shape. She didn't see a person, only flaws. One evening, while rearranging her bedroom to prepare for a meditation ritual, she replaced her white bulb with a soft golden one. She placed a small candle near the mirror and, by chance, stood before it in the new light. For the first time, she felt she was not being scrutinized by the light, but embraced by it. Every feature appeared softer, and in that moment, she looked into her own eyes and whispered, "I may not be perfect, but I am a work of art being lovingly completed." That sentence did not erase all insecurity, but it cracked open something frozen within her. From that night on, every evening, before sleep, Marianne spent a few minutes standing before the mirror in gentle light, not to adjust, not to critique, but simply to look at herself as a mother might look at a child growing up. Slowly, the silent phrases she had repeated for years, "I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not lovable, I'm too plain," began to be replaced with softer, truer, more compassionate words. And from that point, it was not just the mirror reflecting her. She began reflecting a new self back into the world. A mirror has no power unless you give it power. But once you use it with awareness, it can become a tool for shaping your inner image. The picture you hold in your mind of yourself determines how you live, how you love, how much you earn, and what you allow yourself to receive from life. If that picture is distorted by hurt, by others' words, by outdated expectations, you will always feel lacking and forced to live against your nature. But if you begin to restore that image each night, with a simple ritual, looking into the mirror under gentle light and speaking the qualities you wish to embody, you are altering an entire neurological structure in your brain. You are teaching your subconscious a new way of seeing. You do not need many words, just one that is true, one honest gaze, one light that does not glare, a little patience, a little love. These things seem small, yet when repeated every night before sleep, they can become the invisible thread that quietly rewoven the entire fabric of your life. Not through grand effort, but through steady, gentle présence. If you are living inside an old image of yourself, one that is no longer accurate, no longer supportive, let the rest of your journey begin in the quietest place, the mirror in your room, beneath soft light. At the moment the outside world has gone still. In that space, you do not need to convince anyone else. You need only to convince yourself that you are worthy of being seen through the eyes of love. Once your subconscious receives that new image, The world will respond to you as if you had never been any different. For the subconscious, there is no past, only what you repeat. Most often, let the mirror reflect what you choose, not what you used to believe, and little by little, everything around you will adjust itself to match that image. It begins with a look, it ends with a life. Recording your own voice, sound waves that bypass all resistance. The sound of your own voice is one of the most powerful vibrations your subconscious can receive. Not the voice of another, not reminders from the outside, but the tone that comes from your own vocal cords bearing your unique imprint, your own rhythm, a resonance no one else can duplicate. It is the sound that, when it rises, your body immediately recognizes as belonging to you. It requires no filter. It meets no resistance. It travels straight into your nervous system and touches the deepest regions of your emotions. And if you know how to use it as a programming tool, you can alter the entire operating system of your inner world without force or struggle. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. There is something few are ever taught. You do not need someone else to tell you who you are. You only need to repeat that truth in your own voice enough times, with enough sincerity and clarity that your subconscious has no reason left to refuse it. When you record yourself speaking positive affirmations, you are not simply creating an audio file, you are imprinting a stream of vibrations into your own energetic field. And each night, when you play that recording before sleep, you are not merely listening with your ears, you are opening a vibrational doorway, you are bringing yourself back to a frequency of safety, a place where you are remembered, reminded, and repositioned in the realm of truth. A man named Michael had struggled with insomnia and chronic anxiety for 7 years. He tried everything: medication, meditation, music, therapy. Nothing truly shifted until he was advised to record the statements he wanted to believe, then listen to them every night before sleep. At first, he found it strange. Hearing his own voice in the middle of the night felt uncomfortable, but he tried anyway. He chose 3 simple sentences. I am safe within myself. I am supported by life. I am a person of value. Asterisk. He recorded them in a calm tone, no forcing, no performance. He played them each night on a small bedside speaker, letting the sound flow into the twilight space between waking and sleep. 3 weeks later, he began to sleep more deeply. No more sudden awakenings in the night. No more mornings filled with emptiness. His sleep was no longer a battle. It became a homecoming. And it had not come from anyone else. It had come from his own voice, a sound his subconscious no longer resisted. Because it was the sound of home, recording your own voice is a sacred ritual. It does not require professionalism or technical skill. You only need to speak as if recounting something that has already happened. Speak as if whispering to the child within you, telling a story it once forgot. Every word you utter carries your unique frequency, and when it plays steadily, softly, through the night, it enters the subconscious like a wordless lullaby, self-calling to self. What matters is not how good you sound, but whether you are truly present in every phrase. The voice you release is the fingerprint of your soul. It is your encoded signature to the world, and once you use it to speak the truth, you choose to live. The subconscious will not analyze right or wrong. It will simply receive and begin reorganizing your entire belief system around what is most frequently repeated. You can start with a short recording, just a few minutes. Write down what you most need to hear. It need not be lofty, only simple and true. I am worthy of love. I allow myself to release the past. I am living in the flow of abundance. Asterisk. Then record them in a gentle tone, as if speaking to someone you deeply care for. Each night before sleep, play that recording. No need to try to listen, just let it be there. Let it be the soundscape of your sleep, an oral space where you return to yourself. Over time, you will feel your mind soften. Layers of resistance will lose their edge. The defensive self will step back, and something deep within will begin to rise in awareness that you no longer have to prove anything. You only have to remember through sound, remember through the voice that is already yours. For sometimes healing does not come from a new method. It comes from allowing yourself to hear your true voice again. Every night, as a silent and sovereign ritual, this is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to, a space no one else can create for you. And when you return to it long enough, often enough, sincerely enough, the entire world around you will adjust to reflect the new self-awakening within you. You will need no one to remind you who you are, because you will have already heard it in your own voice. And that will be enough. The question before sleep, unlocking timeless wisdom. When you ask a question, right before you drift into sleep, you are not merely seeking an answer, you are awakening a gateway to a wisdom that exists beyond the limits of time. The subconscious does not sleep. It simply waits for a signal to begin its silent journey. One of the strongest signals you can send is a question that is clear, sincere, and charged with emotion. This is not blind belief. It is an art known to ancient civilizations, where people saw dreams as a sacred space for conversing with themselves in their most original form. A question asked at the right moment can redirect the course of an entire life, but not all questions carry power. Only those born from a quiet heart, free from pressure, free from the demand for an immediate answer, can pass through the defensive shell of the conscious mind and reach the creative core of the subconscious. Just before sleep is such a time when all outer noise has faded and the inner voice is no longer drowned out. The subconscious steps into a receptive state. In that moment, a simple yet profound question can open thousands of doors. A woman once endured a great loss. She did not know whether to continue on her old path or begin again. Every day she wrestled with conflicting thoughts and unspoken fears. Then one night, instead of forcing herself to find a solution, she whispered silently before sleep, "What is seeking to be born through me right now?" Asterisk. There was no expectation, no tension, just an invitation to the quiet intelligence within her. The next morning, she awoke with a strange but unmistakably clear idea. It did not come from reason. It did not resemble anything she had thought before, but it stirred her heart. From that moment, a new project took shape, not as a survival strategy, but as a lifeline flowing from within. The right question does not demand an immediate reply. It is simply a key handed to the subconscious to unlock what has never been seen. And when you ask from a place of stillness and patience, you are establishing a sacred dialogue between yourself and the greater intelligence that lives within you. The simpler the question, the easier it is for the subconscious to respond. The more creative the question, rather than controlling, the deeper the insights it will yield. You need not ask anything complex. Sometimes, a question as small as, "How can I live more truthfully tomorrow?" Asterisk, or, "What do I need to let go of to move forward with ease?" Asterisk, or, "If I had no fear, what would I do differently?" Asterisk is enough. Such questions are not for analysis, they are for opening. They open the areas of awareness once clouded by familiarity, control, and fear. The subconscious does not answer with logic. It answers with images, feelings, intuition, and seemingly random connections that appear the next day. When you learn to listen, you will notice that every dream holds a coded message. Every coincidence carries, meaning every sudden inspiration contains a fragment of the answer you sent out the night before. And if you write down Whatever comes to mind in the morning, whether it is a faint image or a single phrase, you will begin to see a thread emerge, a living current opening through you, not from the outside, but from the timeless intelligence within. You can create a simple ritual before turning off the light, to sit quietly for a few minutes. Breathe evenly and gently. Ask yourself, what matters most to me right now? Asterisk. Then let the answer take the form of a question. Write it down. Place the notebook by your bed. Then, like a child sending a wish into the universe, close your eyes with a light trust that you have planted the seed. No need to think further. No need to speculate. Just sleep. And trust that there is a light within you working silently to bring the answer at the right time. Do not measure the value of a question by its cleverness. Measure it by the sincerity of the intent behind it. The subconscious does not listen to pretended wisdom. It responds only to true presence. And if you ask a question with absolute sincerity, even once it can lead you to an entirely new chapter in your inner life. In a noisy world, the wise are not those who know all the answers, but those who know how to ask the right question at the right time, with a quiet heart, open enough to hear. Tonight, before you sleep, ask, but do not rush to wait for the reply. Let sleep do the rest. And then, one day, when you least expect it, the answer will appear not as words, but as an undeniable feeling, a clarity that needs no explanation, a path that unfolds right beneath your feet. And in that moment, you will realize you were the one who called it forth. With a question, in the stillest moment of the day, lucid dreaming, the inner laboratory of creative mind. Have you ever woken up inside your own dream? Have you ever realized, in the middle of it, that you were dreaming, and in that instant, known you could choose what happened next? If you have, and you've stepped into one of the most potent realms of the mind, what's called lucid dreaming, not everyone has experienced it, but everyone has the capacity to open that door. And once you do, you discover that sleep is no longer a passive state. It becomes a mental laboratory of creation, where limits dissolve, where you don't just witness reality, you shape it from the inside out. Lucid dreaming is not some mystical phenomenon reserved for the gifted. It is a skill that can be cultivated, and it's not simply for entertainment or adventure. It's a way to access and work with the deepest layers of the subconscious, where images, symbols, and emotions operate like a wordless code. When you become conscious in a dream, you stand at the junction of the conscious and subconscious. You enter a neutral zone where the boundary between imagination and reality becomes fluid. And there, you can observe your core beliefs, try on a new self-image, heal old memories, even change the root emotion tied to an event that's been frozen in your mind. There was a man who carried an unspoken obsession with failure. Outwardly, he was very successful, but before every new project, he would dream the same dream. He was sitting for an exam and couldn't answer a single question. Sweat, panic, shame. The dream repeated for 10 years. One day, he decided to meet it with awareness. Before sleeping, he whispered, if that dream comes again, I will remember this is a dream, and I will do something different. Asterisk. That night, the dream returned, but this time, he paused inside it, took a breath, and said to himself, asterisk, I'm dreaming. Asterisk. Instead of running, he sat down, opened the test paper, and wrote just one sentence. I have already overcome this. Asterisk. When he woke, he felt something strange, not elation, not triumph, but the quiet retreat of a shadow. The dream never came back. And each time he began something new, the old voice, whispering failure, was gone. Lucid dreaming is the place where rigid beliefs can be softened and rewritten. There, you are not bound by social conditioning, family memory, or past experience. You exist in your most primal state as a creator. You can try on a new role, speak words you've never dared say in waking life, embrace your younger self, or simply stand in a silent field and feel a freedom you've never been allowed to have. And the wonder is that when you wake, your subconscious doesn't dismiss the dream as illusion. It records the feelings, stores the experience, and begins adjusting your waking behavior accordingly. One dream can shift a core belief. One night can heal what years of therapy never touched. So what are you carrying that's ready to be tested in that space? Is it an unnamed fear, a dream you've put aside, or a part of yourself you've never let live fully? If you're hearing this now, pause and ask yourself, if I wake up in my dream tonight, what would I do differently with myself? Asterisk. The answer doesn't need to come now. The question itself plants a seed. And when you sleep, your subconscious remembers. It will take you back there, not as a victim of the dream, but as the observer, the chooser, the one shaping reality from a level of wisdom beyond reason. Lucid dreaming is not the goal, it's the vehicle, a way to become a humble student inside the temple of your own mind. There, you don't learn by words, but by experience. No one tests you. No one judges you. You explore yourself, not through magic tricks, not through supernatural skill, but through presence, gentle trust, and a quiet reminder before sleep. I remember I can wake inside my dream. Keep practicing. Keep sending that signal each night. And one day you'll find yourself standing inside your dream, knowing you are no longer swept along by it. You are living intentionally inside the deepest creative space human beings can enter. Thank you for still being here with this story, not listening with your ears, but with a deeper part of you that recognizes something undeniably true in these words. And if you are still present with me now, I trust you are ready to step into your own inner laboratory, not to control, but to understand, to release, and to remember that you have always had the power to choose. In dreams and in waking life, the lunar calendar, dream cultivation in the seasons of the cosmos. The moon does not only command the tides of the oceans, it stirs the tides within the human mind. For thousands of years, ancient peoples observed the moon's movement as a mystical map, guiding harvests, rituals, and most intriguingly, dreams. They did not dream at random. They dreamed in cycles. And the lunar calendar was more than a way to track time. It was a spiritual farming almanac, where the awakened soul sowed seeds of belief, harvested insights, and tended the gardens of the subconscious in harmony with the rhythms of the cosmos. Each lunar cycle spans about 29 days, moving through its phases. New moon, first crescent, first quarter, full moon, last quarter, waning crescent, and dark moon. Each phase is a different gateway for the subconscious. Each opening, a unique current of energy, from beginnings, nurturing, illumination, release, to renewal. If you learn to work with these phases, you will not dream merely for psychological release. You will dream to regenerate, to redesign the hidden currents that shape your life. The new moon is the time of sowing. Energy turns inward. In this phase, you can write down what you wish to begin, record a new affirmation, or simply pose a question to your subconscious, like dropping a seed into the earth and trusting it will know when to sprout. Do not expect dreams in this phase to give immediate answers. What matters is your presence and the gentle invitation you extend to the deepest part of your mind. As the moon begins to wax, through the first crescent and first quarter, energy shifts from inward to outward. Dreams during these nights often grow more vivid, bringing emerging symbols or emotions. This is the time to watch for recurring dreams, striking imagery, or any feelings that linger upon waking. These appearances may be the subconscious first response to the seed you planted earlier. The full moon is the peak of light and clarity. Dreams here often brim with creativity, rich in color, drama, and symbolic depth. Many find themselves in vivid dreams during this time, sensing that something significant wants to be revealed. This is the moment to receive messages, gain clarity on a relationship, or see your true self more clearly in a certain aspect. The full moon crystallizes energy. What you have consciously or unconsciously nurtured in the past 2 weeks reflects back to you. Now, after the full moon comes the waning phase. The last quarter and waning crescent are the time to let go. This is when you observe what no longer serves you. If dreams bring disordered images, old memories, or forgotten shadows, this is the subconscious surfacing them for you to witness and release. There is no need for over-analysis. Just write them down. Breathe with them. And understand that your dreams are now in a cleansing cycle. You can support this process by clearing your sleeping space, reducing blue light exposure, and choosing softer sounds to ease yourself into restful release. Finally comes the dark moon, the return of the subconscious to its quietest place. This is the phase of restoration, reset, and preparation for the next cycle. On dark moon nights, you may dream less or remember nothing upon waking. But do not mistake this for emptiness. It is the quiet soil reforming itself. If you listen deeply, you may catch only a gentle feeling or a faint image, yet it carries a very real movement within. Tracking your dreams by the lunar calendar not only reveals your inner rhythms, but also aligns you with nature. You stop dreaming in reaction to fleeting emotions. You begin dreaming in season. You no longer battle your dreams in fear. You tend them like a patient gardener. You learn to sow into the night, nurture with presence, and harvest through awareness. In time, you will see that your waking life follows the same cycle. You will know when to begin, when to labor, when to shine, when to release, and when to rest in quiet expectancy. The moon keeps turning, silent and precise. It needs no one's belief to keep its course. But if you choose to walk with it, you will never be alone on your path of awakening. You will have an eternal companion, an ancient rhythm to guide you, and a living calendar with which to cultivate the deepest dreams within you. For anyone can sleep, but not everyone dreams in season. And not everyone who dreams knows they are planting seeds in soil that has been waiting for them. Ancestral connection, awakening the gifts of bloodline. There are dreams that do not arise from personal experience. They are not born of what you have lived through, but of what has been passed down to you. These dreams carry an ancient resonance, filled with images you have never encountered, symbols you do not fully understand, and emotions that seem to come from a memory that does not belong to you. This is when the bloodline speaks. This is when your ancestors wish to send a message not through logic, not through words, but through the most delicate vibration, delivered in the language of dreams. The blood that flows through you does not only carry nourishment, it carries memory. And memory does not live in the realm of logical awareness. It resides in the subconscious, in the structure of your cells, in the way you instinctively respond to life. The beliefs you hold are sometimes not your own. They are messages from those who walked before you, ancestors who have known pain, joy, loss, and triumph. And in the quiet moments of sleep, when the conscious mind steps aside, those memories may rise to be seen, renewed, resolved, or embraced as a sacred gift. Connecting with your ancestors is not an act of superstition. It is an act of restoration. You do not need grand rituals. All that is required is pure intention and a space open to receive. When you enter sleep with gratitude for those who came before, you send a signal to the collective soul of your lineage. You open a channel that reaches back through time, where language is no longer a barrier, and emotion becomes the thread that binds generations together. A young woman once dreamed, night after night, of an old woman whose face was unclear, standing by a wooden window frame, gazing out over a rice field. In the dream, the old woman never spoke, only watched in silence, yet her eyes were filled with an unshakable longing, as though waiting for something. At first, the young woman thought it was a random image, but as the dream repeated for months, she decided to ask her mother about the family's history. Then, an old photograph was brought out, and in it was the very woman from her dream, her great-grandmother, who had lost her son in the war and thereafter never left the window at sunset. One night, the young woman sat quietly, placed her hand over her heart, and whispered to her, "I am here. I see you now. Rest assured, we are living the life you once dreamed of." Asterisk. From that night, the dream never returned. But within her remained a peace she had never known, as though something had been completed. When you connect with your ancestors in awareness, you do more than receive unfinished messages. You can also awaken forgotten gifts of the bloodline, a power to heal, a deep intuition, an artistic talent, an extraordinary memory. The things you call innate sometimes do not originate from you alone, but from a life that continues through you, and only when you accept your role as a conscious heir can you unlock their full potential, not through force, but through a gentle remembering, through a quiet invitation from the heart. I am ready to remember. On certain nights, you might prepare your sleeping space with photographs of departed loved ones, sous un silent prayer, or simply a question before drifting off. Ancestors, what is seeking to be passed down through me? Asterisk. And then you sleep. No expectation, no pressure. Only allowing the subconscious to lead you to the deepest chamber of ancestral memory. Sometimes you will wake with an answer. Other times, only with a strange serenity. But if you keep returning, keep asking, keep listening, the current will grow stronger. You will not only be healed, you will become a channel through which the lineage itself is healed. This is the power of voice within, not merely a voice you hear, but a space to which you return. The voice within you is not just the sound of the present moment. It carries the echoes of hundreds of years, of lives once lived, loves once cherished, hopes once held. And when you live fully in the present, not only for yourself, but as a conscious continuation, you complete a sacred circle. You become the living expression of what could not bloom in the past. You are the manifestation of an ancient prayer made real. Connecting with your ancestors is not only a journey back to your roots, it is an act of shaping the future from a purified foundation. And when you dream not just for yourself, but for an entire line of souls who walked silently before you, that dream holds far more power than you can imagine. It ceases to be merely a tool for personal healing. It becomes a rite of re-establishing inherited wisdom, bringing the light of awareness back to illuminate an ancient stream. And you, the one who listens, the one who remembers, are the doorway through which it happens. Parallel timelines, merging with your successful self. There is a truth many people vaguely sense but cannot yet name, the feeling that they have lived something before. A conversation repeating itself, a decision that feels predestined, a fleeting emotion so vivid It is almost impossible to believe. These experiences do not come from ordinary memory. They are remnants of parallel timelines where you, in another version, have walked a different path, made different choices, and lived a different life. And dreams are the meeting place where those timelines intersect, blend, and open a door for you to return and merge with yourself in a profound wholeness. In the dream state, the boundaries between timelines are no longer distinct. You might dream of living in a city you have never visited, possessing skills you have never learned, loving someone you have never met, or even existing in a lifetime under a different name. Yet, you know it is you, not a stranger, but yourself in another form. And when you awaken, instead of fading, like most unconscious dreams, you carry with you a vivid emotional imprint, a strange yet deep energy, as if you had just touched an ancient memory from the future. The mind does not operate along a linear clock. It works in layers, depths, and frequencies. When you sleep and your conscious mind retreats, the doors to your parallel selves swing open. Every choice you did not make, every dream you abandoned, every potential you have yet to explore continues to live and unfold in its own timeline, not as a hypothesis, but as a truth occurring simultaneously. And when you dream of a more successful version of yourself, a self-radiant, confident, healthy, and creative, that is not imagination. It is an invitation, a silent handshake from the you who has already walked that road, urging you to remember the way back. A man once dreamed repeatedly of himself speaking to thousands of people. In the dream, he was calm, articulate, inspiring, and the audience listened with rapt attention. In waking life, however, he was a reserved engineer, shy of crowds, and prone to stuttering when nervous. Instead of dismissing it, he began writing down those dreams, describing every detail of each appearance. He sensed that the man in the dream was himself, not in the present, but his highest possible self. Each night, he whispered before sleep, "If you and I are one, help me remember." Over time, the dreams grew vivid, precise, and began guiding him step by step. A year later, he was not only speaking before large audiences, but had become a source of inspiration, not because he learned a new skill, but because he remembered the man he had always been capable of becoming. Merging with your successful self is not a journey of striving upward. It is a subtle journey of returning to the version of you who has already achieved what you dream of, returning to the self who has lived your full potential, the one you are still seeking. And the dream, if you listen closely, is the bridge that enables this integration. You do not need to understand everything. You only need to be willing to ask, where have I already lived that I have not allowed myself to remember? What can I learn from myself in another timeline? Who am I ready to become that I already am in another reality? This merging does not happen through logic, but through vibration. When you fully feel the energy of a successful dream and bring it into the present, you are retrieving the fragments of yourself that were once forgotten. You are telling the universe, I choose not to remain divided. I choose to be whole. Asterisk. And when you choose wholeness, miracles begin to unfold, a clearer inspiration, an unexpected idea, a boldness that does not come from effort, but from integration. You no longer live in the gap between your present self and your unfulfilled dreams. You become the bridge between the two shores, allowing the energy of your future self to return and act with you here and now. Remember, you do not need perfect dreams. You only need to listen, to observe, to feel, and then to write them down, make notes, recognize the patterns, and create space for integration. For every dream is not fantasy, it is a message. And sometimes the greatest message is this: you do not need to search for anything outside yourself. You need only to remember the successful version of you who is calling from another timeline. Then act as though you have already merged. Think as though you have already lived it. Feel as though it is already true. And the outer world will, sooner or later, adjust itself to match the new wholeness within you. I am the dreamer, realizing my true nature. You once believed you were only an observer of dreams, a bystander watching chaotic fragments of film pass through the night, a passive character in an unconscious world where everything appeared and vanished without order. But what if everything you thought you knew was only part of the truth? What if you were not merely the dreamer, but the creator of the dream, not a spectator, but the director, not a victim of strange imagery, but the creative source behind every symbolic scene? If that were true, then you would not only be able to interpret your dreams, you could rewrite reality itself. I am the dreamer, not only in sleep, but in this entire life. Every scene I witness is a reflection of my own beliefs. Every person I meet is a fragment of myself sent to help me see myself more clearly. Every situation that unfolds is not random, it is a living reaction within a greater dream. My soul has scripted long before. When I wake each morning, I do not leave one dream, I step into another, more intricate, more elaborate, more physical in form, but still, at its essence, a vast mirror reflecting what I believe to be true. If you have ever awoken from a deep dream feeling as if you had just lived another lifetime, then you have begun to understand that feeling is not an illusion. It is proof that your consciousness is far greater than this body and this name. You are not merely the bearer of memories. You are the space in which all memories are contained. You are not simply living one life. You are the meeting point of many timelines, flowing through a single center, a place where you are invited to realize who you truly are. A dream is never just an image. It is a structure of meaning wrapped in symbols. When you dream of being chased, you are running from a part of yourself. When you dream of flying, you are releasing a layer of energy once suppressed. When you dream of crying, you are allowing yourself to feel something you have never touched in waking life. Every dream is a piece of the subconscious longing to be brought into the light, and you are the one holding the torch. Then there is the strange, rare moment when you realize you are dreaming while still inside the dream. When you awaken within the dream, when you know you no longer have to follow the script, you can choose again. You can turn and walk a different way. You can speak words you never dared to say. You can save yourself. This is not only lucid dreaming, it is the awakening of the soul. It is the silent confirmation that you are not trapped within the subconscious, you are working alongside it. And that is when true integration begins. I am the dreamer, and I am also the writer of the dream. I do not simply wait for sleep to arrive and passively receive what the subconscious sends. I prepare for it. I plant intention. I ask questions. I shape the space. I send invitations to myself from other dimensions to return and guide me. I am no longer afraid of strange dreams. I listen to them as one listens to a distant echo from the self-longing to be remembered, because I know that every dream is an encoded message, and every message is an opportunity to return to my original essence. I no longer chase knowledge from outside. I excavate the treasure within. I do not seek light in faraway places. I turn inward to where the light has never gone out. I no longer ask others who I am. I listen to the quiet voice between breaths, the voice that whispers that I am the creator dreaming this life into form. I did not come here to learn how to dream more beautifully. I came to remember that I am the dream itself, awakening from within. So are you. You are not here to be carried along in someone else's dream. You are here to shape your own. through daily and nightly awareness, you are not here to escape reality through dreaming. You are here to use the dream as a mirror reflecting your deepest truth. You are here to affirm what has always been true. You are not a victim. You are the dreamer. And the most beautiful dream begins the moment you remember that. Go to sleep tonight as though stepping into a sacred space. Place your hand over your heart and affirm that you are the dreamer. Send a message to yourself from the future. And when the images begin to form, when the silence begins to fill the air, know that you are not alone. You are receiving the deeper blueprint for your awakening journey. Each morning, write down what you have seen. Live according to what you have felt. Let your dream be not another world, but the starting point for merging with the sacred essence within yourself. Because from the moment you realize you are the dreamer, you are no longer a character in someone else's story. You become the designer of the dream for your entire living experience. And when that happens, you are not just awake, you are free. Not free from the dream, but free from the illusion that you never had the power to create it all. You have journeyed through this story, not only with the mind, but with a deeper part of you, the part that has always known who you are. Not a small being, limited by circumstance, not someone asleep in another's dream, but the true dreamer, the one awakening within the very dream you have created. Everything you need is already within you. The night's images are not for entertainment or to be dismissed. They are maps leading you back to your soul. Each night is an opportunity. Every breath you take as you drift into sleep is a prayer. Every dream is a key guiding you back to what you have always had, what you have always been. From this moment forward, stop searching outside yourself. Let sleep itself become the place where you live. Most authentically, step into the night not as a sleepwalker, but as one who is awake, returning to the original home of your being. For once you remember that you are the dreamer, you will never live the same again. You will not only change your sleep, you will be rewriting your entire life